everybody, we're going to take a look at the vintage EQs that were just released in Logic 10.4. We're not going to actually do any listening tests. I want to show you where these actually came from, the ones that they're modeled after. The manual, pretty vague. It says these are based off of well-known EQs, but the actual interfaces are dead giveaways to anyone who's used some pretty standard traditional vintage EQ equipment. For instance, let's take a look at the Neve 1073 EQ module. Not exactly the same, but you can tell right away from the knobs. This is definitely the brand of equalizer that we're basing this off of. And similar little everything. If they don't want to admit what these actually are and give them the name, then I hope that they've made some other deal, because remarkably close, don't you think? Anyway, so this is based off of Neve EQ. Pretty awesome. The one down here, the graphic EQ, is based off of the API graphic EQ, right down to the same red knob in the middle, the in and out button on the side. Super awesome little EQ modules. And then the last, the vintage tube, is based off of these set of Pultec equalizers. Now there's two halves to this, which essentially work. This half right here is really modeled after this middle section, the mid-range equalizer MEQ5, and then this one here off of this EQP module here. Now everything down to having the boost and the attenuation right here, all of that based off of this hardware. So what's the point then? If they're not going to tell you exactly which ones they're modeled after, I suppose they don't necessarily have to for things of a certain era, but they didn't go all the way and actually make the deal with anyone who owns the trademark to actually call them what they are. So we're stuck kind of knowing what they are without actually having them in name. So we have the vintage tube EQ, vintage console EQ, vintage graphic EQ. Each of these really does have a different characteristic and can be used in so many different ways. For instance, I'm going to be using this Pultec model on things like cymbals and basses. The Neve I'm going to be using a lot on vocals and maybe some guitar, acoustic guitars and things like that. The vintage graphic EQ API is great for things like drums, other electric guitars, snare drum, even kicks. All of these are really different colors in your palette, and you're going to want to figure out what they make the most sense for you. But let me tell you something. If you see one of these available someplace that's in good condition, go ahead and buy it. It's going to sound better than any software thing, but it's just really cool to be able to have this version inside Logic as a part of the standard plugin set. So don't overlook these as something that's really amazing and powerful in your new toolkit with 10.4. Definitely start putting these in rotation. Okay, that's it for this today. I might do another video tonight, but definitely one by tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled, subscribe, you know the drill.